Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Express, which is becoming everyone's favorite talk show. It is profoundly real and interesting, so without any further delay, please help me welcome back to the stage the beautiful and expressive director of Express, Carolyn. Carolyn, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back to continue episode 3 for Dr. Canute Birch. Well, it's been a very, very interesting discussion with you. You're such a go-getter with a lot of resilience. And, it's just great to hear your story because all that happened paid off for you. So now we're at the last lot of what you want to share with the audience. So let's get going. The last thing you discussed, you were saying that you were able, God was able
Okay.
to help you with your to add to your request to him. He actually gave it to you where you were a savior for the family. Go ahead now. Can you hear me?
Well, of course. Now I am. Are you hearing me? Yeah.
Yes, I'm
I
hearing you
am
now.
in New York. I'm working. My limousine service. Working for myself, and I making real good money. Really good money. To the extent that I was saving a lot, and I even bought a car just for the weekend. That I drive to church, and a nice Saab 900. And uh, just I'm still in my you know just past my mid 20s, and just really enjoying life, just and working hard, working because I was working like 10 hours per day. Sometimes when it came on to prom season, I was working like 18 hours, you know, in a day. There were a few times when I got, airport closed. I took people to Boston, to Washington, 3 hours away and 4 hours away, respectively. And sometimes when I did that, I made enough money for several days in a row. So, but I still kept working the following days when I came back after I had slept. And but then the Lord, just out of the blue, just sent an invitation, you know, even though I hadn't applied for a job, just sent an invitation, to offering to me a position as pastor, associate and youth pastor of one of our churches in New York, the Grand Concourse Church. And so that's when I got that. I hadn't solicited anybody, asked them anybody to get me a job, or to help me get my feet in, because I wanted just to go straight to finish my doctorate. And so it was just surprising, but I just said this has to be the Lord, So I just took it, and I just essentially cold turkey just came out of the business. I remember, keeping one of the cars for a while, but then I gave it to a brother that I brought up from New York, from Jamaica, because by this time, I had been filed for through a church, so I had my green card, and I was able to take that job, and thanks to a really good Samaritan pastor and friend who helped me that way, and I was able to get in the position, kept the car for, even while I was passing, I had my stretched limousine. Sometimes that's what I drove to church. But I wasn't working it per se, even though, I could have, in a sense. I wasn't supposed to, but I could have. I didn't. I just used it when I needed to, until I eventually sold and bought me a sedan, and it was shortly after that I I started courting, my wife, you know, who would become my wife, and the Lord just worked that out, and I was able to get married after I left that church immediate, like about within a year of leaving that church. I think was it? No, 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 no. No, I left in '95. So yeah, I was able to get married in 1997. Um, and uh, the Lord has just continued to bless in so many ways. You know, it's another story. How I got married, but I won't go into that. I'm just going to focus on the some of the business things that I've been able to do. I'm pastoring now, still, and but before I got married, my wife was in school, and I my girlfriend, fiance, ultimately was in school, and it just occurred to me that I should try to own a house. We should try to own a house so that we buy a house together so we could move into it when we get married. I mean, we were poor when I was growing up. We didn't have much. I walked bare feet and all of that kind of thing. When I went to school that way for my primary school years, some of it in my earlier primary school years, you know, but we always lived in our own house. I never lived in a rented house with my parents. So somehow it just occurred to me, and I heard people talking about real estate. I had a friend in Florida who was big in real estate, the same one who gave me that airfare when I flew from Miami and after I left the choir to New York. He's At that time he told me he had about 7 houses in New York. So somehow there was that thing in my head that okay, you can own a house in America. Since I'm getting married now, I'm putting down roots. Why not try to own a house? I'd been working for 4 years at the time. Let's just try and buy a house. You're talking about now student loan debt, and then to introduce this idea of buying a house and no money, no job, except that I was working. That was like, what? To my fiance. But I said, all I need is your agreement. I will do all the research, I'll do all the work, and I will come and I will sit down and present it to you, help you to understand as best you can, and we will get it done. I had no idea how it was going to happen because my relatives in New York at the time did not own a house, or in America
Oh
did
no.
not own a house. So it's not like I had somebody to tell me how to do it, but I just decided to restart researching.
Mhm.
And I eventually, after being turned down, I think by at least one bank, I eventually found a guy who was a mortgage broker, and he said, I can help you to make that happen. I will help you. And the guy went to work. It took longer than we had hoped, but we found a property in Bronxville, a condo, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, 1,100 square feet. It was big, you know. And it so happened that even though I didn't know that at the time when I went into contract, I don't even know how much I put down. If I had put down any money, because I didn't really have money. Having now been working as a pastor, making 20 something or whatever $1,000 per year, um, starting out at that anyhow. Uh, and I, but I just had the faith that the Lord can help me to do it. I don't know
Mhm.
where I got that from, but I just had it. And Lord helped me that the property that I saw, the only one in that complex and the only one in that area was a property where the guy had bought it, bought another house, and now he was paying 2 mortgages. So he sold me, he went into contract for the same price that he paid for it a few years before,
Mm.
because he needed to get out of that second that mortgage for that place. And that's how I got in, at the price that he had paid for it. That's how we got in. Um, and so we're still not married yet, but we know we're getting married. We're engaged, and were we even engaged? We started the process before we were engaged, but while we knew we were going to get married, to ourselves.
Mm.
And the Lord just continued to work that, and we had some hurdles. And while the mortgage broker was working on the hurdles, the seller suggested that we move into the place because we had to extend the contract, to accommodate the getting over the hurdles.
Mm.
And I mean, the hurdles cost from all the debt, and student loans and whatever. And um, I he said to us, yeah, we should rent the place until we close. So I gladly, went to my landlord and asked if he would let me out of the lease. We had a good agreement. He had respect for me. He knew I was a pastor. He said, Reverend, not a problem. He was a Jewish man. He said, not a problem. I will work it out for you. And he was able to get me out of the lease agreement that was not nearly up at that point in time, and I was able to rent we were able to rent this place. And 3 months after we moved into it, I think, we closed on the property. you know Stayed there, loved it. And then in 2 years, we decided we wanted to buy another place. So we bought another place while we still were living there. And time was a single family house in the, Mount Vernon North, the northern side, right near the high school in Mount Vernon. And um, we wanted to rent out that place, but they wouldn't allow us to rent it, so we had to sell it. And it was, as the market was peaking during those years, maybe 2002 or somewhere there. And we were able to get a premium price for it, and walked away from the table with over 100,000,
Mm.
from that first piece of real estate that we bought. And that was after essentially not putting down anything, or very little, because I think we got a seller's concession
Mhm.
on that, so where the seller, I guess must have carried a part of it or something. I don't remember how it worked. It's such a
Whatever.
long time, I don't remember, but
Mhm.
something that helped us to be able to get into it. And thank God to those people who came, who we invited to our wedding. They gave, little gifts, and we were able to use that money to help us with the down payment. Because the money that I had saved up was what I used to book a cruise for a honeymoon, a Caribbean cruise, for us, which I gave her as a gift for the wedding. And we were able to get into our own house like that. And that just told me that this can happen. I can learn how to do this. And the Lord just continued to lead. I developed my confidence. I was pastoring. I not even 10 years in ministry. I mean, by this time, only about what, 4 to 5 years in ministry. And I now have two houses, two places in New York, and I'm keeping it quiet, until, I may have told one person, and then they started telling other pastors, started contacting me, asking me, you know, how I'm doing this. So I just, I would tell those who would ask, so they can, because they were in ministry, some of them, for a longer time, and they didn't own a house, couldn't see themselves owning a house. And I just told them what I knew, and what I did,
To try
and
to help. To try to help, huh?
yes, yes, yeah,
Mhm.
so that they can do it for
Own
themselves.
one too. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But as I continued, as I was there, when I sold that place, I I know from helping my mother, I remember she used to sometimes sell when they had work days in Jamaica, where the parish council was paying these people, that day when they came to pay them payday. for people
Mhm.
who clean the roads and all of that kind of thing. You know, what I mean, cut bush the roads and stuff. My mother would go to Montego Bay and buy um, Kisco pop and stuff like that. You know, and bring it down, and I would sell them.
Oh,
And I remember one specific time,
so that's
and
where you
you
get
know,
this
what
from.
call it, soda.
Soda pops.
Yeah, those sodas and things like that, aerated water, they call them, yeah,
Uh,
sodas. You know,
uh.
we had stacks of them at the house. And I would notice that every time we bought them and we sold just a little bit, we had made back the money. And um, if we drank off the rest of it, we didn't lose any money. I remember walking up and down the street, you know, I'm saying, Kisco Pop, buy one, get one. To the
Canute.
to the
Oh boy, you're so
extent that
you're really
the
keeping it
first
real.
time I think I did it,
You're
the
really
first time
keeping
I
it
think I
real.
did it, that night in my sleep, my brother said I was saying in my sleep, Kisco Pop, buy one, get one. And I was totally unaware because I was having nightmares or whatever. You
Oh
know,
boy, I tell you.
but that thing has always lived with me. Always
Yes.
lived with me. The you know, the idea of entrepreneurship, doing stuff
Yes.
can
Yes.
turn over money, you know, get you back your principal, and then,
Mhm.
you know, give you more. That it remained with me, but I still had no desire for business. It was just a
Or to
means to.
get rich or anything like that, right?
No, 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 no. I had no desire. I used to preach against riches. I mean, I used to literally, you know, preach sermons against wealth, you know, riches,
Mm.
you know, and all of those kinds of things. You know, people like, you know, whatever, you know, however you preach, I don't come on, you know, people who could, you know, have all of this money. How did they get all of this money? You know, and then they're not using it to help people. You know, I mean, this and that, and all kinds of things. I used to preach
Yeah.
constantly against wealth.
But you're different though, because you get money and you help. You've helped people.
Well,
You're so
you know,
modest. I know you're not gonna want to say a lot, but I know you've helped so many people, students and all of that. If you want to share some, you can, but I know you're a very modest person. You're in the background. You've done a lot for schools, you've done a lot for students, and obviously, you're not just having it for yourself. So go ahead and if you want to share some more.
so what as I, you know, I was still pastoring, and then I
Mhm.
realized that, you know, I mean, there are some uncertainties in this thing, and I, you know, frankly, I'm not going to say much about this, but I used to hear some veiled threats
Okay.
coming in my
Okay.
direction, you know, regarding people who were not joining some what I consider to be political bandwagons, you know, from our same Caribbean people, you know,
Mhm.
and you know, and I had even been threatened directly before, you know, uh, not by somebody who was an officer in the conference, but I leave that at that. But in any case, you know, I started to develop some insecurities, and I said to myself, I gotta protect myself some more so that I am not without income, just in
Mhm.
case. You know, not that I, you know, never had any, you know, I mean, think about, I was doing my job, baptizing a lot, doing whatever, you know, but the political side of it, I didn't have an appetite for, because I didn't have any interest in getting a big church or going into any office. So I just wanted to do the Lord's work. And then I wanted to transition into teaching once I was done with my doctorate. That's what I came to America. My goal was to do 5 years, get my degree, go back to Jamaica, pastor for a while, get ordained, then teach.
Mhm.
That was how I planned out my life before I went to college. Before I went to college, and
Mhm.
so it was so distasteful to me. So I I started looking for others, and so I decided to sit up at night and research real estate, how to do it so I can have it as a backup income, not to get wealthy, but just as a backup income. And
Mhm.
that's how I came across Carlton Sheets, and started. I sent for the $9.99 binder
Yeah.
that he would say, the big old thick.
Brown. I
thick.
remember. Yes.
Yeah. And I got it. I got it. And I got, if nothing else, I got one thing, that how to buy distressed properties. And when I read it, I started researching the internet like he said you should. By this time, I had got my first computer, because you remember those things weren't common then. But
Yes,
I
right.
bought one for $1,500. Somebody built it for me.
Mm.
And I learned how to do this and get on the internet. And I started searching eBay, and I saw a property in New Jersey. I had sold my condo by this time, condo at this time, and I think our first daughter was born. We uh, well, let me see. By this time, we had a miscarriage. Yeah, we had our second child. Our second child died as a stillbirth. You know, like about 3 days before delivery. Um,
Oh.
and we had to we had to suffer through that. I thought the day I was cleaning up my car to go to workers meeting at the conference office, when my wife called me and said we need to go to the hospital. I'm having whatever labor
Time
pains.
to show that she's. Mhm.
Yeah, so I went to get for us to go and bring back the baby, only to get there, and when the nurse is doing the ultrasound,
Couldn't
they
hear a
can't
heart.
find a heartbeat. And
Wow.
I heard the nurse saying it, and I saw her, going around, and it's like,
Didn't register.
I'm
Mm.
just saying, yeah, she's gonna come to it, because I have my magazine or book or whatever that I had brought to read, you know, while I'm going through this, because I've had one already, so I kind of know this thing,
Yes. It's gonna
so
be a long going out.
yeah, until she went and got the doctor, and
Mm.
the doctor came in, and the doctor is searching all around, and she can't hear a heartbeat. And then she turned to my wife and said, I'm sorry, we can't find a heartbeat. And that's when it hit. My wife was beside her, screaming. And then that's when it hit me. And I
Mhm.
started crying,
Wow.
because I realized that uh, the Lord helped us to recover after weeks of crying together. We just praise the Lord for the one child that we had, and
Mm.
thank that at least we have one.
Now they're on tight too. Yes, yes, yes. I
Yes,
know the
yes,
feeling.
yeah. It was very painful though, and I must say
Mm.
this: for when the person at the reception desk at Lawrence Hospital in Bronxville, they saw us coming in, and they like they congratulated or whatever, they excited, whatever, and then we are going back out now. My wife is in the wheelchair, and I'm walking on, and they are saying congratulations,
Oh,
not realizing that we had lost
give
a
you that.
child.
Oh,
And then we had to share with them that we had lost a child. It was the most painful thing to stand up over the grave of my child, or the casket,
mm-hmm.
like about almost 8 pounds.
Mm.
It was very mature, no complications in the pregnancy. But we realized that the Lord gives and the Lord takes, and
Yes,
blessed be the name of the
yes.
Lord. So that's the way we dealt with that,
Mm-hmm.
as traumatizing as it was. So I saw on eBay a property for sale in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, did all the little things that I needed to find out about it. Um, then went with the owner, did some title search on the property, took out the 20 something thousand cash, to pay the city to clear the tax lien, got
Mm-hmm.
a notary public to sign on to stamp an agreement between me and the seller, that he owned, that owned the property. It was a property that, they confirmed that it could be taken anytime. and the city, confirmed that he wanted 50,000 for it. I gave him the 50,000 because I had just walked away with over 100 from that sale of that condo,
Mm.
and I bought the property, and you know uh, kept it for about 2 years, not spending any money except to maybe about 3 or 4 times. I think I bushed it, had somebody do that, pay them to do that, and then I sold it for twice the price. two
Mm.
years so I started buying properties, not just in New York, but in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, all while I'm pastoring, you know. So by the time I decided to relocate, my wife and I discussed this a long time before that we are not gonna live in New York forever. And then we decided we didn't want to raise our children in New York, so close to everything. And because that real estate thing was doing well, of course, we decided that we would find a position down here, and the Lord just opened it up. Meanwhile, I am building in Atlanta, a brand new house, to move into, but just to sell back. I bought a burned out property, had about 3 acres, and I nearly 6,000 square foot house, and the Lord helped me to sell it, you know, um, 400 and something thousand doing that. That was in 2006, just before the market started going down or
Right
crashed,
down.
you
Mhm,
know.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So, so when I left New York, I really quietly had started to gain wealth in real estate, into this the 7 figures, you know, because the Lord was blessing so much, and I just kept it on the wraps, I didn't say anything about it unless people asked me about it, I told them, and I still didn't tell them everything, that I was doing. I just told them what could help them where they are, where they were rather at that time, and that's how eventually I decided, we decided that come to the point where we could afford, for to leave New York, and we did, took almost 100,000 pay cut, with my salary being wiped out, and
Mhm.
my wife having to accept a lower salary than she, was getting at the time. But we just decided in faith, we wanted our kids to grow up in an area where they could go to an Adventist school from elementary to tertiary. And so we decided to choose here because this is where the Lord, we tried for Huntsville too, but the Lord didn't open up anything there. So we came where we are currently. And um, the Lord had blessed in many ways. The market went down in 2008, 2009. I had numerous properties by this time. Like I said, I had bought and some of them I bought cash. I had bought, another, property in New York, apartment, condo, whatever, and bought it cash, from all the money that I was making from real estate, and I still own that even till today. After what, some
Mhm.
nearly 20 years. Which property the price has about tripled by this time. At this time, when I look at what price they are selling for there, and the market crashed, but the Lord was able to help us to tighten. I mean, tighten the seat belt, and to stay the course.
Mhm.
So while we went down in value, we didn't lose anything in, any property. We didn't have to sell anything. We were able to hold on to, rentals that by this time I had acquired when I came down here. We had, bought several properties and still kept, some that we had before. And, we just stayed out that, rode that out until like a few years ago, maybe to 2011, 2013, I don't know what it was, the market started moving again,
Mhm.
No, no, not so soon. Just about 3, 4 years ago, the
20,
market started
2018?
moving up again. Yeah, 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 and we were just there for the ride. Fortunately, because we already had assets. That except for, I guess, the house that we were living in. They were paid for already, because those that
Mhm.
we didn't buy cash, we were able to pay them off during the time period, and we were just ready to ride the wave.
Mhm.
We were, just ready to ride the wave. So essentially, I became, except for those properties, I became a stay-at-home dad. I did a little teaching at, finished, I did a little teaching at Southern, but I realized that it was more profitable for me to do my own thing.
Mhm.
Not just
Focus on
profitable in
what
the
you.
sense, not in money, but in terms of where the family was at. It was better
Mhm.
for me to concentrate on doing my own thing, and taking care of the kids, you know, because I ran the house essentially,
Mhm. Mhm.
while my wife went to a full time job,
Mhm.
and I just did that for 8 years. It's for
Wow.
8 years before I went back out and took a job as an insurance agent, as a financial professional, at a firm here. But and during that time, that's when I was able to start writing. I
Okay.
was able to
Okay.
write.
So yes, you have a few books. How many books have you written?
Well, I think I've definitely written more than I've published.
Okay.
Some of them I am trying to. I just need to do some polishing up to finish right now. So, but I uh, I have published about three. One of them I haven't published in hardcover yet, but two of them in hardcover
What's the title and what
have been
motivated
published,
you
and
to?
these are sort of academic. They're fairly academic, but still, very readable. The first one I wrote was uh, it's in the form of a question. A third great disappointment for the remnant,
Okay.
and that is, the subtitle is uh, historical theological exposition on race relations in the Seventh Day Adventist Church,
Okay.
where I look at everything, all the material that was out there that was published on. It was I think fairly exhaustive for the time when it was at the time when it was
When
written.
you wrote it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, tons and tons of over 400 citations, you know, um, and I then while I was doing that, I was inspired to write something on Jamaica as I came across material. And so I decided to write a book on Jamaica shortly thereafter, which I took, I think the first one I really did it in 2 months,
Mm.
working 8 hours. As I dropped off my kids at school, I had my lunch with me in a bag, and I went to the library at Southern Adventist University, and I just, for all that time that they were at school, I was at the library.
Then you go
I
and pick
sat
them
there, and yeah, and I was just researching.
up.
So I was able to do it in 2 months.
Right.
Write that first book, and then the other one. I guess it was a little bit longer than that. This one is entitled "Redemption Song,"
Okay.
and that is a missiological, and the subtitle is a missiological and historical inquiry into Adventism in Jamaica and its diaspora. Uh, so
Mm.
I did a fairly almost exhaustive study too, looking back at all the literature coming back from when the work started in Jamaica and before, and up to the time when I published, which was in 2015. And
Mm.
I looked at England, I looked at Canada, I looked at America, looked at other places, the Caribbean, where Jamaicans had gone as Adventists, and had impacted the work there. I interviewed, um, union presidents, former union presidents, the assistant, special assistant to the General Conference president, who was also president of the church in Canada, Orville Parchment, um, Elder Perry, who was British
Oh
Union
yes,
president. Yeah, uh-huh.
that's my class.
I Yep, yep. I
He's in
interviewed.
England. He's still in England, eh?
I think he had relocated to Jamaica. I
Oh
think I
yeah.
heard that.
Okay.
Uh-huh. I went down to Jamaica, interviewed Elder Fraser, Dr. Vassal Kerr, Dr. Beaumont, Elder Vaz before he passed, and
Mhm.
I interviewed Fitzhenry, also, Pastor Glenn Samuels, and I guess maybe other people. And I did, just looked at everything and gave, a very good, I think, uh, piece of work. As Dr. Kerr wrote, he said, you've done a masterful piece of job, or this is a masterful piece of work. That was his comment for that, because I had him read it before I published it, because I didn't want to. Wanted to have to one the blessing of one of the elders. I
Mhm.
mean, of the church in
Right.
Jamaica. Yeah,
Mhm.
and so I was able to publish that. But
So
then go
okay.
ahead.
So if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how to get to read these books or to buy the book rather? Do you have a
They can find them.
website? Where?
They can find them on the internet.
On the internet, Amazon.
Yes, they can be found. Yeah, Amazon, Google, wherever. You type in. You just typed in my name. You and put book. You should see that come up.
Mhm.
See them come up. But you could also put in the titles. One of them is Redemption Song, and you put my name to it. And the other one is A Third Great Disappointment for the Remnant, a question mark. And you should see my name come up. I have also done other work. You can look on academia.edu. I have stuff there that I've posted there. uh, I have made presentations. I presented at the Adventist Theological Society, um, which is the group of Adventist scholars from all around the world, essentially. Um, However, I realized that I could continue in real estate and make my contribution to the church free of cost. So that's how that was my rationale for getting out of the formal work. I said, I could do the same things because I have the skills. I could do some of the same things that I was doing while I was pastoring, while I'm working for myself. I
Mhm.
just don't have to get paid for it, and
Giving back, giving back, right?
yes, yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's essentially where I've been for the last number of years, and the Lord has just been blessing. I've, registered my business while I was pastoring. I registered a business, a real estate entity in New York. That's how you see my email address, Alorca, because it was
Oh,
Alorca Enterprises. That was the name of my business there. But that one has ended since I am not no more in New York, and
okay.
I don't have any properties under it, or did not have any properties under it after a while, after I relocated. So
So,
the new one I have now is Birch Luxury Homes and
luxury
Property
homes and properties, yeah.
LLC.
Mhm.
It's owned uh, by myself, me and my wife. Um, Essentially, it's I just take care of that. I mean,
Mm.
I take care of everything for the business, and she does what she why she does what she does. We started I started this with no money. I still had properties, but I didn't put them in the business.
Mm.
I just started that in 2021, and by the for the first year, I just
That's during the COVID period.
yes, I just essentially, uh, just researched other things because that was when I decided after I saw some of the things I was doing in Jamaica to help kids to go to NCU,
Mhm.
it clicked to me one day, somewhere about 2020 or 2021, somewhere there. It clicked in my head that wealth is not a bad thing.
Of course not.
Use it to help people.
Yes. Yes.
And I just said to myself, okay, I'm going because I started listening to other people, you know, um, YouTube and whatever. And I said, you know what? I'm going to present it to the Lord that I'm ready now.
Mhm.
I'm ready. If He wants to bless me with more wealth, I'm ready to receive it. Because I may have mentioned in a private conversation with you when I
Mhm.
was doing my limousine business, I driven a guy to the city down on Wall Street, and he said to me, "Come to my office." He handed me his car. Come to my office on Monday morning, and I'll show you how to get rich. Gave me his card. He was the CEO of the company, and I said, I didn't say. I guess I must have said, okay, and thank you, but I didn't go
Mm.
because it wasn't my goal to get rich.
Mm.
I still am not rich. However, however, I recently decided that, Lord, whatever you want to give me, I will be a conduit.
Mm.
Whatever you
Yes.
want to
Yes.
pour on
Yes.
me,
Yes.
I will
Yes.
be a
Yes.
conduit. And
Yes.
that's the expression I use, a conduit.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And it's after I had made that decision that I, was doing things and people were seeing, and I got a call to be on that committee for MCU. So
Amazing.
by the end, within a 12-month period, um, without any money, essentially, uh, I was able to build that business to seven figures
Wow.
within a 12-month period, mhm, using different
Good.
kinds of financing.
So your
Not in
business or
my
like
business,
okay.
my business, yeah,
And
not
what's
including not including the properties that we owned before and
mhm.
before that, just new properties within, which is like the last 12, I mean, maybe about the last 15, 16 months now. But
Mhm.
I'm talking about by November, mhm, of last year, within that 12-month period, starting from about January, I was able to acquire,
Mhm.
properties leading into near multiple seven figures,
Mhm.
uh, using different means of financing, including seller financing,
Mhm.
owner financing, and I have since then uh, essentially developed a subdivision. I haven't really done infrastructural work and all of that, but I bought property with no money, and I was able to get to identify financing for it. Uh, Fixed up the properties, sold some. I have now a subdivision named Birch Hill Homes subdivision, and
Wow.
I have some acres still left there that I'm going to build on. I am just trying to bring sewer to the property, and perhaps I don't know how many homes I'll be able to build there, but it's a few acres left there. All of that since I started the business, and that with no money essentially out of my pocket, literally no money out of pocket. Um, and of course I was able to acquire several other properties, that are very expensive, and were able to stabilize everything and keep the ball rolling. And I've just started really because what I'm doing is just the beginning of what I see myself doing.
Mm.
because my ultimate goal is to be big in commercial real estate, which
Mm-hmm.
means that some of those high-rise commercial buildings that you're seeing, my name is gonna be on it one day. You know,
Okay.
uh, I mean, the real big complexes, with
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of units. That's where I'm going.
Okay.
By the grace of God, as I allow Him to use me as a conduit, because I am blessing other people. I mean, what I told you about, with NC, that's just one of what the things that I'm doing. Not to mention the things that I do here, locally and elsewhere in Jamaica, plus Africa. Just trying to help. And I said, this is how the Lord is leading me to build wealth so I could assist others. And it really has just begun, because this is nothing compared to what so many other people are doing. And
Mm-hmm.
and really, the way I do it is by exposing myself to information that is available. I listen to YouTube. I pay money to learn. I have been to real estate,
Seminars.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
paying thousands of dollars for it. you know
Mm-hmm.
i I am paying, I have paid $15,000 for a coach. I mean, I'm
Yes,
paying
yes.
significant money
Mentor.
now.
Yes, yes, you have to.
And that is just, I mean, and yet those are not what helped me to where I am, but those are what are going to help me to the next level.
Right.
you know uh
Your learning curve is shortened by doing that.
yes, yes, yeah, my research has brought me to this point. And now these, I'm going to use these to help me to the next level.
Yeah.
So I'm just
Yeah.
making
Let
myself available and trying to let the Lord use me, stay healthy, keep my family
mm,
strong by God's grace, and and let Him bless me however He wants to, so that I can do more for His work, because
yeah,
I can see where the impact of what I'm doing so far, what we are doing rather. I
yeah.
shouldn't say me. It's with the full support of my wife, and I should say, without her participation with me, it wouldn't happen.
Mm, mm.
It wouldn't happen, even though I am the one doing the
Doing it, but
business.
just to know for her to say, "Okay, dear, you keep going."
Yes, and
That's
her
the
support in
encouragement.
every way. Yeah,
Yes,
her
yes.
support in every way, because we do everything together.
You know. Yeah.
Everything together. So if I should check out today, she at least has an overview of where we are, and
Mm,
know where all the properties are, where an idea of what's going on with them, because we talk about it.
mm.
And the children, I take them to the properties and let them see uh, exactly where we have properties, and talk to them about it, let them know what they could do, what this could do. I if you I send you a photo of my son there working with me. He just so that he can get a taste of what this is. And I say, go to school, get
For
your degrees.
generation to generation. Yeah.
Yeah, but while you get your degrees, understand that you don't have to stay employed in what you get your degree in.
Right.
You
Right.
know,